Hi and welcome to this tutorial in regards to trying to recreate this kind of Jurassic style kind of image. Now, for this particular image, I don't actually have the original images to hand for the ones I actually used for this. This was created a little while ago, but I do get asked quite a lot how I actually go about creating the images that I do. So what I thought I'd do is actually give a bit of a breakdown, a little rundown through on YouTube, and try and give people some inspiration of how to go about creating these kind of images. Now, what I will say though is, even though I don't have the particular images to hand for you to actually go and create for this, what I will suggest though is that you can pretty much look for these online, and they are very pretty easy to find. You can pretty much find them on plenty of sites nowadays, so it won't take you too long, and also you'll be able to create your own unique one that you'll be very happy with indeed. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn all these particular layers off quickly, and we will give a bit of a rundown of exactly how I went about creating this particular image. Okay, so first of all, I will show you what I got my inspiration from, and it is this one. So obviously, we all remember Jurassic Park, and we've got this famous scene here. Obviously, the Tyrannosaurus Rex is broken out of this kind of pen here. Okay, so this is the kind of scene that I wanted to create, but there is another iconic scene that I do actually remember watching it, where the dinosaur comes up behind the car, and someone's either sat at the front or the side. I can't remember which one it is, but they come around roaring. So I kind of like wanted to compile those two images together. So I use this one as my base. So what I will suggest that you do though is, if you're not too sure how about to go, creating certain images, if you're trying to base it, say like on a film, a game, any kind of superhero, anything else like that, you can go get some inspiration. Just look on Google Images, type in Jurassic Park, scenes, and it'll come up with different things. And you could kind of like then work from there, and the kind of things that you're actually looking for. So one thing I needed straight away was obviously the tarmac. So obviously this is where the truck's going to be driving along. Now for my particular images, because I use these for other purposes as well, I make everything in landscape at the moment. So the image that I found wasn't quite wide enough, and I didn't really want to stretch it out because it didn't look quite right. So what I did was I pretty much just mirrored these images, kind of like blended them together. What I did then was kind of like done some cloning, and then I obviously added shadows and stuff and darkened it all off and everything else. So this kind of like, once the truck's on there, the dinosaurs on there, you don't really notice all these kind of bits in between here. So it's totally fine. And then obviously then we have to need the background. So obviously with this particular image, we need the jungle scene. So obviously this is where the dinosaur was. Now for this one, the only decent image that I personally could find was this one here, but it was more square. So obviously I wanted landscape. Now I didn't want to stretch it out because it would just make the trees and everything else look really weird indeed. So what I done was I kind of like done a mirror image. But what I did was I kind of like cloned certain areas. So on the right hand side here, I had to try and make sure that it's not the same as the left hand side here. Now, as you'll notice, in the middle here is a little bit weird, but I knew this is where I wanted my dinosaur to go. So this kind of area didn't really matter because it was going to be covered over. But as long as I could make these sides here look, completely different, it was totally fine. So it's pretty much easy to do. Like I say, you can just use the clone tool, just kind of like blend in different bits of trees. I did copy and paste a couple of other bits over and then kind of blended them in to try and give it a little bit something different. But once you mess around with it, you'll come up with a little way. But for you personally, you can make a square image. If you do go landscape, you might actually find a better one than me. You might get luckier than me. So next thing we got up here is the beams. Now, in regards to the beams, I got this from an actual bridge. So this is like a shot. So someone actually took a photo and they shot it down on like a normal road bridge, and it had like the metal beams down the side. So what I did was actually use them. So with these beams, in the final image here, is they're leaning back, because obviously where the dinosaurs escaped, they're leaning back here. But obviously this one's shot side on, so we have to keep in mind that we're looking it straight on, so they need to be leaning back. Otherwise, it's going to look a bit odd that if the dinosaur's broken down this fence and the actual beams are just like still normal. So I just basically took them from a bridge, cut them out with a pen tool, and then transferred them over to there. These wires here. Now with these wires here, this is pretty much simple to do as well. I got these from a bridge as well. Very simple to do. Once again, you just get like a really good high quality bridge shot, and just make sure that the wires aren't shot too far into the distance or anything else like that. You know, make sure like you got a nice close up shot so that it's high quality images to actually use, because if you have these and then you try and make a bigger image, it can really blur it out. So just keep in mind that you have some really good sharp shots of the actual wires themselves. What I did also then was, if I zoom in as well, is I put these actually onto the end. So I basically just Googled like frayed wire edges, and I found this particular one, and then what I done was pretty much with these ones is a color balanced everything out to make sure that it all kind of like matched, and also that it went with the actual background as well. So with the actual wires themselves, when they did come off the bridge, these were all perfectly straight. Now, one thing I actually use and absolutely love using is this one here, Puppet Warp. Once you get the Puppet Warp, you can put it on there. You drop your pins. You can drop your pins like on one end from here. Make sure that it's all stable. So quite a few pins through, and then you can bend that wire around, and then you can just shape them up, you know, to make sure it looks like the actual dinosaur has actually escaped. So we've got the nice frayed edges, we've got the actual things coming through. But another thing that was really important was to make sure that the actual wires look like they're going through here. So I actually use a brush, just basically, sorry, an eraser, and just basically cut these off and made it so that they're going through. But also what you'll notice is I did actually put the shadows in here as well. So that's very important as well. Make sure that it's darker around the certain areas where the actual wires are coming through, just to make it look as realistic as possible. So moving on to next is the actual barriers. Right, now with the barriers, I pretty much got these. Obviously you can see you've got the watermarks on them. These are the only high quality images that I could actually find. Well, I could find some other ones, but I just didn't feel that they suited the image that I actually wanted. So I went with these ones. Basically, you just cut them out of the actual image themselves, and then I just basically just put them onto the ground here. Very simple to do indeed. Not too much to worry about on that sort of front there. Right, we got the shadows there. Now with the dinosaur itself, this was very easy to do. This guy I found online anyway, so he was already looking like that, and I just knew that was the scene. As soon as I actually seen him, I knew that was the scene that I wanted to create straight away. So went with him. Also then we've got the car. So obviously, as you're noticing now, I'm not worrying about anything like certain areas like this being missing. Like I said before, like the jungle here was a little bit rubbish. But once you kind of like know where the piece is going to go, you don't really have to worry about the things that are hidden. You don't have to, like, if you know things are going to go in the way, just leave it. Otherwise, you're just going to be wasting your own time trying to sort it all out. Now, obviously, the most important thing was to make sure that the truck here obviously looks like is going like into the dinosaurs, or the dinosaur is wrapping himself around the truck, as I say. Now, with this one, it's pretty much simple to do, really. So I edited the truck out, cut it all out. And there was a guy sat in the window here, actually, come to think of it. So I cut the window out. I edited around here, and I actually just sorted it out so that the windows were back to normal. So basically I just like copied and pasted from certain parts and rebuilt the window, you know, to get rid of where the guy was actually sat in there. This one you can actually use, you can find other similar trucks to this. If you do want to create like a Jurassic Park image, I mean, it's pretty much straightforward to do. You can just Google it, and there are loads and loads of Jurassic Park actual vans out there and images. So you can use the real one if you want. I didn't really want to use the real one. So we created, so obviously I've cut this out like I say. He's put this truck now onto the tarmac here. So like I said, we needed the dinosaur to wrap round. So the best way for this to do was to make sure that I had these guys set up to the right size. This is one of the most important things. So once you actually get in your actual scene set up, so we've got the scene here, and I know that jungle's there. I know for a fact that also we've got this tarmac here, but the reason that I will say is if you want someone in the image, you have to give them room to be in it if you want. Like I wanted the person to like be fully in there. You can have the truck further down and the person to be bigger with their feet hanging out. I don't personally like that. I really wanted them to actually all fit into the scene. So it's really important that if you want to go down that kind of route, you want everything to fit actually into the scene. It's trying to like make sure you scale it up and try and get it best that you possibly can first of all, just so that you know what you're actually working with. Now, once I've got these guys up and got all this set up, up to the right kind of size, then I actually cut the car out around the dinosaurs. Very simple to do, really. So you just got your dinosaur here. All you're going to do is you're just going to use the actual quick selection tool here. Just go around, make sure that you get as detailed as you possibly can, and obviously switch then to the truck, and then just delete that part of the truck. And then you simply got it looking like the dinosaur is actually coming around. With the actual shadows themselves, now this was really important because I created two different shadows, but I had to put them together because obviously, as you can see, that the dinosaur here is obviously behind the car bit here. So if you just use your usual drop shadow, say like you just basically, I take the car, I control J it, and then I just basically just turn it up horizontally and kind of shape the way that I feel that the shadow will go with the light in the actual image. Now, in regards to that, if I did it separately, the dinosaur just didn't look right at all. So I try and worked out the best way that I felt that the foot would be behind this back wheel here. And then obviously we've got the light source. Now the light source here is coming from just through the center piece here and over this side. So it's kind of like coming down at a slight angle on the way down. So I'm trying to create it. That's the kind of way that I wanted it. So then I had to try and make sure that the actual shadows kind of match. Now, one thing you're going to notice is like the tailgate here is here onto the floor. Now, the reason for this is because when the light shines down, his whole body's not stood right directly up against this car. There is light coming straight down through to there. So I just basically just turn the shadows upside down, join these together, and then that was pretty much easily done as well. Now, another point is we've got moving on is I created other shadows for my daughter here. Now, this is my daughter playing the part. Now, one thing I find that sometimes when you're looking for people online, sometimes like it's very hard to get the exact pose that you really want. So you kind of like end up just going for any kind of person that you find, or you can spend hours looking for someone. So what I tend to do is I get my daughter dressed up in the kind of part that I wanted to. Now you don't have to go as far as that if you don't want to. Like with my daughter here, she's got like this green jacket on, so it kind of like blends in with the scene. Exactly the same kind of like idea that I went with the car as well. The green matches in kind of with this green. The dinosaur does as well. So all the colors really like kind of like blend. It's not like something like a really bright red or anything else like that, trying to draw your eye away from the actual scene itself. You don't want anything really too overpowering. Personally, for me, I like it to like feel like it flows really well. So I got my daughter dressed up and she's playing the part here. Now, basically all I did was get her to sit against the wall at home. So she sat on against the wall in my office, and then I just got her to look up in the corner of the ceiling and just told her, you know, pretend there's a dinosaur coming to eat you. You know that kind of thing. It's very simple to do, and her acting skills are getting a little bit better. I got her. She's getting used to it, so her acting skills are getting better. So this is where I want the person to be, because obviously the dinosaur's coming around to scare the person because he wants to eat him, and then my daughter's here hiding behind because obviously the dinosaur has escaped from there. Then obviously with this one as well, as you can see, there's a little bit more of a shadow there. I didn't want to add too much shadow because obviously she's trapped inside behind the car with here. Now you can argue if you wanted to that where the light's coming down, that it's not really going to catch her face as much. But in my kind of world, I want to make sure that you can see the person as well. Do you know what I mean? So for me personally, it's really important to be able to see the person's face and whatnot. So for me, there's enough light coming down here to be able to showcase the thing. It can be different depending on the kind of image that you want to do. But I really want to, draw out the person's face. But one thing I will say also with the jungle, the one thing I did is with this as well. So as you can see coming on now is this light rays coming here. When I did first set up the jungle, it was obviously just one kind of like shade. I changed the actual greens because I wanted these greens here to not be quite as strong. So they kind of like matched like with the dinosaur, like I was saying before. When they before, they were really deep, rich greens, and I don't really like greens to be that rich, so I dulled them down quite a bit using Camera Raw. You can go into there, you can just play with the values, say like the saturation and the luminancy in the greens, but also use the yellows as well, because there's a lot of yellows in greens as well. You can have a little bit of play around, kind of like find out the way that you actually like your greens to look if you want, but if you prefer them to be really rich, that's entirely up to you as well. But one thing then, as I did, was I put a lot more shadow, so I made the trees a lot darker here in that lot, because I wanted it not to just be one light source coming through. I did want it to be like a bright day, because obviously, like I said, I really want the person to stand out as well as the dinosaur. I don't want it to be a really dark scene. So obviously with this one, it's a lot darker, but they got like lighting coming down here, haven't they, from like the street lamps and stuff like that. I didn't want that. I wanted more natural light, rather, just so it would be shining down. So this is more like a daytime scene, so to speak. So we got this coming down, and just to like make up the way that where she's hidden behind the truck, to make her really light up, I wanted these light rays to come down, so it's like kind of like a bright light shining down as well. So obviously the light's shining down, and because it's more of a daytime scene as well, obviously this is going to light up this side of the dinosaur. Now if it was a darker scene and we just had, say, like a street lamp down here or something like that, it might light up this side, but it would make this side of the dinosaur really dark. So I didn't want that. I wanted it all to look very bright indeed. But like I say, that was pretty much it. So as you can see, I've used one for the jungle, another one for the wires, another one for the frills, the actual beams. There's another one, the dinosaur, the car, the road, and my daughter. So what we got, about 6, 7 different images just to create this. And there's only like 3 or 4, major images that you can actually look for online. So it's very simple to do indeed. And then we just put the final touches, and that was with the actual obviously, I merge all the layers together here with Control Shift Alt E, put all that together, and then what I do is go into filter, camera raw, and then I play around with the settings. This is one thing I will say, though, to really try and bring your image to life. Now, obviously, as with this one, you can see that I haven't made a hell of a lot of changes. I was quite happy. I just want to keep it like this. But one thing is, you do go in there, play with your blacks and stuff like that, your exposure, play with the colors and stuff. And even then also as well, is color balance is absolutely brilliant. If you put in some colors in the highlights or the shadows and stuff, it can really bring your photo or your image to life. And I've done that with plenty of other ones. For this one, I didn't feel like I really wanted to, but you can play around with that as well. But that, guys, is pretty much how I went about making it. I will make some other ones. And when I do actually make some more, especially ones for just YouTube, I will give the video, the actual images that I actually used as well, to actually showcase, so you guys can actually follow along. Maybe I'll do a bit more of a detailed tutorial as I go about making it as well. But if you guys like this, let me know. That'd be absolutely amazing. If you want me to make any changes about the way that I go about making these images, that'd be absolutely brilliant. Just leave it all in the comment section below. But anyway, guys, thank you very much, and have a great day.